Good morning. It is Thursday, September 10th at about 10 minutes to 10. My name is Larry Cedar, and I'm back with you for another session on Sqanning, Sqanning, which is a relaxation technique which utilizes the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and ultimately, we hope, mental calm. Because, gosh, we could all use it these days. I'm going a little crazy. I don't know about you. So I practice scanning. A lot of people say to me, man, how can you do this every single day? Don't you get bored? And, people will come and express an interest in the technique and say it's great, and then they'll lose interest and drift away, and that's fine. I understand that. One of the things I learned from Thaddeus Golas, who wrote The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, which was my inspiration for this technique, is that we tend to be drawn to things which are interesting to us, stimulating, fascinating. And we are very passionate about them until such time as they start to seem less interesting to us, and we lose interest and we move on to something else which is interesting and different. And frequently we move on when something's actually starting to work. That's the odd thing. As he says, when you feel yourself moving from mass to energy to space, which is the evolution of enlightenment, you start to actually feel yourself benefiting, is when we sometimes lose interest. So I'm aware of that, and that's why I've stuck with this, because I know there's benefits, but I also know it's difficult. It requires a lot of discipline and repetition and constant practice. And so that's why I'm here every day. People might consider it a boring practice, but so is practicing piano. And yet, if you practice piano, look what beautiful music you can create. So I'm a fairly disciplined person, and I determined a while back when I first started this technique that regardless of how boring or interesting or frustrating it might get, I would continue to practice until I had perfected the technique, which may never happen. But in the meantime, I hope to get better and better at it. So someone asked me, well, how do you know when you've learned enough that you can stop practicing? Well, you'll know you've learned enough to stop practicing when you go to do it and part of you just says, yeah, let's do it. Resistance to the technique, resistance to this practice indicates to me that I still need to practice. It's easy. If I feel resistant to starting a scanning session, if I start it and start to go, I don't want to, I'm bored, I don't want to, this doesn't work, I don't want to, this makes me uncomfortable, I don't want to, I'd rather go do this, this, or this. If I'm finding ways to avoid it, chances are I need to keep doing it. If you ever come to a day where you go, I'm going to scan, yes, I want to do that, let's do it. You'll kind of be there. That hasn't happened to me yet. As many years as I've been doing this, I still feel resistant to the process, which indicates to me that I still need to work on the process. And again, using the pianist analogy, if I ever were to become a perfect pianist, I would sit down and play perfectly, and I would never feel the frustrations that pianists feel who want to be the perfect player. I'd sit down and I'd say, yeah, let's just play. It's perfect. It's beautiful. But pianists or any musician knows when you go to sit down to play or practice, there's always that anxiety, frustration that you just haven't got it right yet. And so you don't want to do it because it doesn't feel good to not be good at something. We want to feel good at stuff. So those of us who know that the discipline and repetition will get us better and better, push through that resistance. But that's a sure sign that you need to keep working when you feel that resistance. So let's get started. I today will push through my resistance, and as will you if you're interested in doing so with me. Again, it's called Sqanning, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical and ultimately emotional and mental calm. We're working with two basic processes of the universe, according to Thaddeus Golas. We are either contracted, squeeze your hands together, or expanded, release. That's it. We just explained the whole universe. The universe, everything in it, is either in a state of contraction, pulling together, coming together, or expansion, moving apart, separating. And I just heard a bling, which means I have to turn off my phone ringer. So hold on one second while I check this message. I know this is unusual, but this is kind of important. Here, where were we? So we're going to continue with this process of expansion. That's what we're working towards. The universe is either in a state of contraction or expansion. You are either in a state of contraction or expansion. We indicate that by squeezing our hands together. We can duplicate this one basic force of the universe in our hands, have a physical sensation of this process just by squeezing our hands together. That's contraction. You've just identified with, experienced one half of the universe. Done. Now, the opposite of that is expansion. 3, 2, 1, release. You just duplicated the process of expansion. So that's all we're dealing with. All we're dealing with in scanning is practicing moving ourselves from a contracted state into an expanded state. That's it. So we start by squeezing our hands together. Tight, 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 tight. Contraction is good. It's excellent. It's the stuff of the universe. It's what we're made of. It's what we do. It's how we operate in this world. But we become overly contracted. Overcontraction is anxiety, compulsive behavior or thoughts, being limited, being closed-minded, being in a state of what I call no, being unwilling or unable to move freely and flexibly, being stuck, being in a held position. Frequently, when we're in a contracted state, we are holding our breath, holding our breath. Everything's in a held state. We do that out of a sense of fear and insecurity. We take a position and we hold it because we feel it will make us secure, but it has a drawback. It closes us off to the world and possibilities. It limits us physically, mentally, emotionally. So when we feel that way, which is generally when we feel bad, we have to learn how to expand. 3, 2, 1, release. Take a deep, deep breath. And another. And another. And then sit in absolute and complete stillness and silence. 15 seconds. Again, scanning is the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical, emotional, and mental calm. And we do that by incrementally releasing the muscles of our body. And we take these preliminary steps to stop contracting and move ourselves into a more expanded state. These are what I call the preliminary steps. Squeeze, release to indicate you have control over your state of consciousness and being. You can either contract or release, just did it. Deep breaths, which are expansive by nature. Deep breathing is one of the most fundamental ways to move yourself into a state of expansion. Deep breaths, if you can do nothing else, if you have no time for any of the rest of this mumbo jumbo, and just take yourself to a place where you can take a series of deep, deep breaths and then sit in stillness and silence. 15 seconds, 30 seconds, and then repeat. We sit in stillness because absolute stillness sends a signal to your body that we've stopped contracting. We are no longer going to contract. We've stopped taking action. We're going to stop. Absolute stillness sends an incredibly powerful message to your body. 3, 2, 1, freeze. It's like nothing we do all day. All day long we're moving, changing, deciding, thinking, talking, working, moving, grooving, all day long. In our sleep we toss, we turn. We rarely sit in absolute stillness. So when you do it, your body right away sits up and pays attention and says, what's going on? Why are we stopped? Why do we stop? It's like when you're in a subway car and all of a sudden it stops in the middle of the tunnel in New York and you go, why do we stop? Why do we stop? What's going on? Right? Your body says something's going on, something's changing. So absolute stillness, the breathing expands you and the stillness sends a message. Things are changing. Something different is about to happen. So it's a great step. And we sit in absolute silence, because all day long we're talking, chatting, thinking, arguing, being very verbal. These are all contractions. We stop, even if our mind is still racing. Don't worry about that for now, but stop. To the best of your ability, don't speak, and to the best of your ability, try not to think. It's very difficult, so it doesn't matter if you continue to think. But these steps, these preliminary steps, are sending a signal to your body. We're moving away from a state of contraction into a state of expansion. Okay, preliminary steps. Let's do it a few more times. And don't be bothered if you get dizzy from the breathing. Typically, when you're in a contracted state, you haven't been breathing that much. You've been holding your breath just like you've been holding your position. So when you inject this influx of oxygen into your body, it can be a bit overwhelming. When you change states of consciousness, it can be a bit disorienting. Okay, and you may feel dizzy or weird. That's fine. You've been locked into a position. You've been in a cave. You're pulling yourself out. Here we go. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. Now you know what it feels like to be contracted. Tight, 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 tight. And hold it really tight. This is what we do in life, okay? This is what I call a binary metaphor, squeezing the hands, because we have two choices. Muscles can either contract, tight, 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 or expand, and you have a choice. So now we're going to move ourselves into an expanded state, metaphorically and physically. 3, 2, 1, release. You did that. You took control, and you expanded ever so slightly. Take 5 deep breaths, 5 expansive deep breaths. Here we go. 30 seconds of absolute stillness and complete silence. Continue to breathe. Deep breath. Man, I cannot tell you the power of absolute stillness. The concentration it takes, the change of sensibilities and awareness that it creates. We never sit absolutely still. We never do it. And when you do it, your body pays attention. It says something's going on, something's changing. And we rarely sit in stillness and silence. Well, this is why people meditate, but it's very difficult to get yourself to do. I've been doing this for years, and I find it very hard to sit down, be absolutely still and silent for 15 seconds. Try it. One more time, and then we're going to get into what I call the nuts and bolts of this technique, which is the incremental muscular release. Again, another form of expansion. The beauty of this is muscles can either contract or expand. You can't do both at the same time. As we begin this process of expansion, in other words, relaxation of the muscles, we stop contracting. You can't do both at the same time. You may drift back towards contraction, but you can't expand and contract at the same time. So we continue to nudge our body into an expanded state. Squeeze your hands together, tight, tight, tight. Remember, that's you. Study yourself. This is me. And man, is this me. Especially the past 6 months. I am this all the time. What is this? This is me trying to figure things out, trying to figure out what's going to happen with my career, what's going to happen with this country, the election, what's going to happen with my health, what's going to happen with our relationships, my friends, my family, what's going to happen? I keep trying to figure it out. I contract. I think. I take actions. I worry. I have compulsive thoughts. I need to do this. I need to do that. This is me. Working it. Too hard. I become limited. I become restricted. I become stuck. I'm in a held position, and I begin to die on the vine. When you squeeze the life out of your thinking process, when you squeeze the life out of your physical process, you become limited, and you literally begin to shrink. You implode. And we know it because we feel bad. I feel bad. Things aren't working. I feel obsessed with thoughts. I feel obsessed with compulsive behavior. I feel like I'm trying to fix things and it's just not working. This is what happens. So you can change that. You can change your state of consciousness. Just make the decision to expand. Here we go. 3, 2, 1, release. All that pressure's off. Gone. Your hands are free to do whatever they want. There's no obligation in your system anymore. You're just being. You're going to take 5 deep, deep breaths, which are expansive. You're going to move yourself out of that contracted state into an expanded state. 5 deep breaths. Here we go. 30 seconds of absolute stillness and silence. Absolute stillness, as still as you can be. Try not to think anything, form no words, just sit in absolute stillness and silence. Deep breath. Again, amazing how powerful just these preliminary steps can be. Just review. Squeeze, release. That's you. Deep breaths, expansion, pulling yourself out of your contracted cave. Stillness and silence. Stopped contracting. You've stopped. You know, before you can change direction, if a car is moving this way, you have to stop, turn around, and go the other way. This is the stopping point. We are now going to turn around and go the other way. Stillness and silence. If you have time for nothing else, series of deep breaths followed by stillness and silence, deep breaths followed by stillness and silence. You will achieve amazing results. Okay. I feel better already. How do I know? How do I know? Well, same thing that always happens to me. And I've described this every single session. I suddenly become comfortable with the stillness and silence. I suddenly feel as though I could just sit here for 10, 15 minutes, a half an hour, do nothing and be fine with that. Do you know how rarely we feel that way in life? Where we could just sit and do nothing. And I'm not talking about sitting and watching TV or playing video games. I'm talking about sitting in a chair with nothing to do around you but be with yourself and just be comfortable with that. How often do we experience that? I'll tell you, I don't experience it much. I have to do this to get there. That's how obsessive compulsive I am in my life. That's how anxious I am. That's how, you know, overthinking I can be. I rarely just sit in stillness and silence. And so if I can get there, it's like gold. And that's the change I feel after these preliminary steps. So watch for that and see what changes you experience. See what you experience. Everybody experiences this differently. We're all in different states of contraction and, you know, expansion. So it's going to be different for all of us. But just be aware. Awareness is 90% of this process. So now we move into the nuts and bolts of the technique, which is the actual incremental release of muscular tension. Very simple. Make a fist. 3, 2, 1, release. That's all we're doing. Again, muscles can either contract or expand, release. So we're just going to induce that sense of relaxation into different zones, muscular zones of our body. I've broken my body down into 8 or 9 zones. You can follow with me or you can pick your own. But we're going to start with the face. We're going to do to the face what I just did with my hand. 3, 2, 1, release. And I snap my fingers because it's like flipping a switch. I turned off the power to my face, and all my muscles just sagged. So we use our face a lot, so it's pretty easy to identify with those muscles, just like the hands. So we're going to start there. You'll see some of these other muscle groups, you'll go, how do I do that? How do I relax those muscles? I've never even felt those muscles. So you'll get better at it with practice. But we start with the face. Again, 3, 2, 1, release. That dropping sensation, that release of muscular tension is what we're looking for. That sensation, that is the sensation we're going to try to get better and better at inducing until one day you can sit down and you can work your way through your body and incrementally release the muscular tension in your entire body, and you will be completely at peace, relaxed, calm, still, quiet, joyful, at ease, at one. That's what we're looking for. Okay, I've been doing this for years. It's still hard to achieve. That's why I practice so much. It bugs me that I can't just get there. But I'm a human being, man. I'm a human being. So, you know, I got my habits. And tension is a habit. But we're going to learn to break it. The face, 3, 2, 1, release. Feel that? Move to the top of the head. Now there's one you go, top of the head. I didn't even know I had muscles at the top of my head. Well, you do. You're covered in a sheath of muscles. And they're all holding like this. Out of habit, we carry a minimum amount of physical tension at all times, just out of habit. It's called keeping it together. I got to keep it together. What happens if you let go? You fall apart. You think, but you don't. But that's the way you think. So you hold this tension out of safety and security. So now we do the top of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. Same sensations as the face. There's a dropping. 3, 2, 1, release. Just turn off the power to those muscles. You just saved a little bit of power here, a little bit of power here. This is energy you can use for fun stuff. You don't need to be holding tension all day. Why? You don't need it. It's habit. We're going to break that habit. Back of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. Again, back of the head. 3, 2, 1, release. And snap your fingers or make a sound or something, because you really want to be aware that you're going from position A to position B. It's a deliberate decision to turn the power from on to off. You can make it gradual. You can go, I'm just going to slowly ease the muscles down. But I find that if I literally direct the muscles to turn off, I get a response. The body will listen to you. The body will listen to you. The body has an agenda of its own, and that's basically self-protection. So it reacts to things. But you have a higher self within you that can stand outside your body and see what it's doing and say, don't do that. That will harm you. Here's something better for you. Zone 4, the neck. 3, 2, 1, release. Again, the neck. 3, 2, 1, release. And just look for that sensation. Put your focus on that area. See what it feels like. Register, this is my level of tension. Could be a 10, 9, 8, and go 3, 2, 1. I just dropped it to a 5. This is what scanning is all about. This is what I practice every day on my own and here with you. This is what I do obsessively because I want to get better and better at it, because I have seen the amazing results it provides. By relaxing the musculature of the body, the mind in sympathy as a muscle of sorts relaxes as well. All my obsessive thoughts, compulsive thoughts, worries, anxieties float away. They're not being held by anything, and I become calm and centered at peace at one. This is what we're trying to achieve by scanning. Scanning the body for pockets of tension. Zone 5, the shoulders. Let them drop 1 millimeter. 3, 2, 1, release. Do you feel that? And I find myself saying all the time, oh, damn, I didn't even know I was holding my shoulders. That's what we're working on. We're building an awareness. We're building an ability to scan our body and search out pockets of tension that we were subconsciously holding and let them go. The shoulders, 3, 2, 1, release. Let them drop. Okay. That's all we're doing. Practicing. Practice, practice, practice. And if you go to practice and find you don't want to practice, that you're resistant, sure a sign that it's time to practice. Because you're in a held position. You're in a contracted position that doesn't want to be released. If you feel resistance, you've hit gold. You're like a gold miner looking for resistance. Pockets of resistance, as they call them in wartime. You found a pocket of resistance. Well, let it go. You'll feel resistant because by nature we hold on to things. Zone 6 is the chest, the stomach, and the waist. 3, 2, 1, release. Now I'm moving quickly through these, as I always do in these sessions, because these sessions are just basic reminders of how the process works. When you practice on your own, take as much time as you want. You can work on one zone for a half an hour. It's an exploration. Take the time to explore your body, how it works. It's amazing. It just does stuff. Our bodies just do stuff to protect us. We're not even aware of it. They instinctively take positions, mental, physical, emotion positions, and we hold them as a means of protecting ourselves from this very hostile world, unfortunately. And we're taking a position outside of ourselves. Our higher self is standing outside the body and saying, let me help you let that go. I can improve your state of consciousness. All you got to do is concentrate. Zone 7 is the back. 3, 2, 1. Release. Let it sink into the chair. Again, the back. 3, 2, 1. Here we go. Turn that power off. If you feel the impulse to take a breath, take that breath. The impulse the body is sending you is that I've been oxygen deprived. I've been in a held position. And now that you're loosening up, you're opening up. Now's my opportunity to breathe. I need it. I want it. Take it. Take those breaths. Really good sign that you're expanding. Okay? Zone 8 is the pelvis, fraught with tension and clenching and held positions. It's an area of great insecurity for obvious reasons. There's a lot of erogenous and physical bodily functions going on down there, so we tend to hold out of insecurity, loss of control, fear of loss of control. So the pelvis, 3, 2, 1, let go. And there it goes. Slightest amount. We've just reduced the tension in the body. 1%, doesn't matter. Any expansion is a movement away from contraction. Zone 8, down the legs, across the knees, and into the feet. Think about the feet. Focus on the tension in your feet. We all hold a lot of tension in our feet, but we don't think about our feet very often. We don't take the time to do the feet a favor and turn off the power to those muscles. Give them a break. Here we go. Think about the feet. 3, 2, 1, release. And again, that sensation of, that's what you're looking to get good at. That's what you're looking to become familiar with. That's what you're looking to become an expert at. If there's any actors out there, and you ever see me in a waiting room, about to go into an audition, which could be a long time till they call us into waiting rooms with the pandemic, but if you ever see me there just sitting, chances are I'm scanning. I'm working through my body and finding pockets of tension, taking deep breaths, and moving myself into an expanded state. You can do it anytime, anywhere, free. Don't have to go anywhere, don't have to read a book, don't have to study tomes of philosophical and religious tracts. Nothing. It's free. It's available. All you have to do is practice, because it's an unfamiliar process. We habitually contract. Our go-to position in life is to contract. Anxious, contract. Think of a thought. Come up with a solution. Worry. Take action. Contraction, contraction, contraction. We're very good at that. We're not so good at expansion. But we need to expand to survive, so what do? Well, when we really feel the need to expand, if we don't have a process like this available, we have a shot of whiskey. We drink a beer, we smoke a joint, we pop a pill. We get a hold of a chemical assist. We chemically expand. And I gotta admit, man, that feels great. I don't drink or smoke joints or pop pills anymore because, I want to take care of my body. I want to be healthy of mind and body, so I just can't do that anymore. I can't handle it. But when I did it, I loved it. I loved it. I couldn't wait to get drunk on Friday night in college. Couldn't wait to smoke a joint. Always, looking for the pill that would make me feel better. Of course, who doesn't want to? We need to expand. We need a break from ourselves. We're so contracted. We've built a cage around ourselves. But if you don't want to go that route, because it's unhealthy and it has negative after effects and side effects, and you want to find a natural, healthy, free, available way to expand, try scanning. Takes a little more work. You're responsible. The pill's not responsible. The drink's not going to do it for you. The joint's not going to do it for you. You have to do it yourself. And it's not always comfortable because expanding feels dangerous. It makes us vulnerable. It makes us open and available. So it can be uncomfortable. But if you can push through that, the benefits are astounding. Okay, so what do we do today? We've been going for about 25 minutes, so let's review. The two basic functions of the universe, as stated by Thaddeus Golas, my hero, Golas, wrote the book The Lazy Man's Guide to Enlightenment, are contraction, squeeze your hands together, and expansion. We tend to move all day, every day, throughout our life, between states of contraction and expansion, naturally. And you can identify these. Contracted, you're working hard, you're making decisions, you're thinking hard, maybe you feel bad, you're overworked, maybe you're just doing something you really love, but it requires effort and energy, but these are states of contraction. And then we go into states of expansion. We take a vacation, we sit down, we relax, we have sex, we merge with others physically, we open ourselves up, we make ourselves available, free, open-minded, we meditate perhaps. Perhaps we play a sport we really like or a hobby that just is totally agreeable to us, so we're open and available to this process. That's expansion. So we go back and forth all day, every day. And the problems arise is when you become too contracted, or what I call overly contracted, and you're stuck. You're in a held position, and our go-to solution is to contract, so we contract some more. And that makes us even more held, even more stuck. And then we're really stuck with our anxious thoughts and compulsions. If you were to take expansion, if you were to take contraction to its extreme, it's insanity. You basically close yourself off to the real world. You just can't take it. You've just closed yourself off and you've pulled into this completely fabricated state of mind and existence. And then you're institutionalized because people don't know what to do with you. And you don't know how to fix yourself because you're stuck. And they'll give you drugs to try to pull you out of it, or maybe therapy to try to pull you out of it. Okay, but it happens, I say these days in this pandemic, everyone's losing their mind a little bit because we find ourselves seeing a reality that we're finding it progressively more and more difficult to cope with. So we close off. We make irrational decisions. We take positions, extreme positions. It's a perfect storm, this pandemic and this political situation with the election coming up, because people are hardening their positions across the board, politically, physically, emotionally, with regards to their health and safety, societally. It's insane. So we become overly contracted. We feel bad. We can pull ourselves out of that. How? By expanding. The great thing about states of consciousness, and I'm keeping it here because we're stuck here. Better yet, do this. Squeeze your hands together. The great thing about states of consciousness, and this is something Thaddeus talks about, is nobody can change your state of consciousness. You have absolute control. Now, you may feel stuck, but it's just a decision. And we squeeze our hands and then release them to remind ourselves that it's all within our control. So let's do that. Again, this is one of the 3 preliminary steps. 3, 2, 1, release. I just did it. I let go. Do you ever have someone say to you in the middle of a fight, can you just let that go? Can you just let that go? Can we just drop this fight? Do we have to keep fighting about this? Can't you just drop that? Let it go, man. Let it go. Let it go. What they're saying is, let it go. You're stuck. And it's so hard sometimes when someone says that, to let it go. We want to hang on to that anger or whatever it is. But it's true. If you just let it go, it just goes away. So we have that ability. So 3, 2, 1, release. Now we take a series of deep, deep breaths, because breaths are expansive by nature. Scanning is a physical process. I'm not going to give you some philosophy. I'm not going to have you read any philosophical argument or any religious tropes or any metaphors, verbal metaphors. This is a physical process. We want to experience expansion physically. We did it here, and we're going to do it here with the breathing, to move ourselves from a state of contraction into expansion physically, which will then influence our mind and our consciousness and allow us to consciously expand. So take 5 deep breaths. Really deep. Then we sit in absolute stillness and absolute silence for 30 seconds. Deep breath. And again, stillness is a way of sending a message to your body. Stop what you're doing. Stop with the compulsion. Stop with the contraction. Stop. Things are about to change. And again, you see this in life all the time. Someone's going crazy. They're upset about something. And a good friend of theirs will come over and say, hey, stop. Just stop. Sit down. Just stop. Sit down for a second. Get your shit together. And that's what happens. You stop. You stop this excessive, obsessive process of contraction. Stop. That's why we sit in stillness, and silence accompanies that, because that stops this process of forming words and thoughts, obsessive words and thoughts and anxieties in our mind. You may not be able to succeed in quieting your mind completely, but say to yourself, silence. And you'll see how quiet just that simple instruction can cause your mind to become. Those are the preliminary steps. Then we're going to move through the nuts and bolts of this process. And again, these are all steps which can be taken sitting in a chair, in a room, anywhere you are. You know, if you're self-conscious, do the quiet ones. Stillness, silence, take deep breaths quietly. Then move yourself through your body, incrementally releasing muscular tension. Here we go. The face, 3, 2, 1, release. The top of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. The back of the head, 3, 2, 1, release. The neck, 3, 2, 1. And you'll take as much time as you need with these. I'm going quickly, but take as much time as you need. The shoulders, 3, 2, 1, let them drop. The chest, stomach, and waist, 3, 2, 1, release. The back, 3, 2, 1, let it go. The pelvis, 3, 2, 1, let it go. And finally, the feet, 3, 2, 1, let it go. Deep breath. Stillness and silence, 15 seconds. Deep breath. And just take note of how you feel. And again, for me, it's always the same. I feel as though, excuse me for bumping you, I feel as though I've just been let off the hook. I've been given permission to just be for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, whatever. And I feel relieved because I can just be. And that place that Sqanning will bring you to is like an oasis. It's an oasis in the middle of a mad, crazy ocean of a world. We are surrounded by craziness and madness everywhere we look these days. Everywhere we look. And you know, relatively speaking, it's not bad. This isn't World War II. We're not in Europe and the entire world is being blown up and crumbling around us. It's not that, thank goodness, but it is psychologically quite insane. So you find this island of peace and quiet where you detach yourself. You detach yourself from all these external processes. You turn off the news, you turn off the internet, you turn off the games, the video games. You put away the food, you put away the drugs and alcohol, and you just sit, content, within your own skin, within your own being. And the world begins to look brighter because you see that it's all so much simpler than you made it out to be. It's just you. And because your mind is open and you've stopped obsessing and contracting with ideas and thoughts and taking political and emotional and physical and spiritual and social positions, because you've stopped doing that now, you brought yourself to a place where you're not attached to any of these things, the world looks full of possibilities. Anything's possible. And it's not such a bad place when you're here. It's not such a bad place. You've come to a place of neutrality, and from here you can move back out into the world with a much more open, effective mind. That's it for today. Had a little bit of a bumpy beginning. Sorry, folks. Had an important message come in, which I had to take. However, hopefully the session still is intact. I will rebroadcast it. I will repost it on my Facebook page. For 24 hours, I will also post it on the Sqanning Facebook page, Sqanning, the incremental release of muscular tension to achieve a deep state of physical and hopefully emotional and mental calm. Please feel free to share it on your Facebook page. I love spreading the word. This technique is free. It was free to me. It was given freely to me by the universe, and so I give it freely to you. And I hope you'll pass it on. I end every session with the same rule. Rule number one, the number one rule of life. Love yourself. Love is the most expansive practice in life. When you love, you open up, you incorporate. When you love yourself, you are loving everything about yourself. You're not fighting yourself anymore. You're embracing yourself. You're at one. You're at peace with yourself. Love yourself. There is an infinite amount of love available in the universe. Give as much as you need to yourself until you've filled yourself up to the max, and it's just spilling over. And take all that extra and pass it around to the rest of us, because we could all use it every day. That's it. Have yourself a great day. It's Thursday. A couple more days, and we're out of here. And thanks for coming. Bye-bye.